Good morning. I think we'll start. Most people who registered, they have shown up. So welcome to the Commodity Management Toolkit launch event, and thank you for coming. So before we get to see the toolkit, let me give you a brief background, how we arrived at this. So, like when I started working in the TOPS program, that was way back in 2011, we started interacting with all these partners who implement these programs and realized that a lot of these local and smaller NGOs, they are getting involved in the food distribution program. And they have been reaching out to us, reaching out to Adib. We had other colleagues. They have been reaching out because they were looking for tools. They did not have the resources or the expertise in-house where they could develop those tools. So we asked within the Commodity Management Task Force, we have membership from the field, from the headquarters, whether anyone had any commodity management toolkit that covers the entire life cycle of a commodity, right from ordering until the closeout of the program. Then we realized that when people hire new staff, for training those staff also, they don't have something that they can start with. It is like as they are on the job, they keep learning. And it takes time, right? And the same thing goes for those staff who are already on board. If they want to have a refresher training, because you don't do everything all the time, then there also was nothing that one could give to them, the project managers, that, okay, take this one, start with this, and then you are on the job. On the job training is good, but then there has to be some background to that, right? What I'm doing, what I'm working on. So in the Commodity Management Task Force, we discussed, we realized that there is not a single place where people can get everything. You have like a port manual, or you can have a warehouse manual, or you can have a distribution manual. But all these are in isolation, not all together in one place. So we thought it was a good idea that if we can develop something and make it widely available, so people don't have to rely on others to get those tools. It should be easily available, easily accessible. So then what we did in 2014, we started this process. It has been a long time in the making. So what we did was that we did 2 different workshops here in DC. The first one, we discussed about all the processes that happen here in the US. And the second week, we discussed the processes that happen in the country when the food arrives in the country. So we had 31 participants from 11 organizations, both headquarter and field. But most importantly, we have all the stakeholders there in the room. We had not only the PVOs, but USAID, USDA, the commodity vendors, the freight forwarders, all the stakeholders were in one room. So we discussed everything, all the processes involved, and we mapped it out. Once it was mapped out, then we started the vetting process. So we started reaching out to experts in the field to basically vet whatever we discussed in the DC workshops. Once that was done, then we started developing the tools. Some tools were already available. Some tools that were identified as needed, we developed those. And then in April 2016, so you can imagine, starting from 2014, in April 2016, we did our initial field testing of the toolkit. And that was done in the Southern Africa region. Southern Africa region, there are 2 countries where we have the development assistance program. Those are Zimbabwe and Malawi. So there are 4 awardees, 2 in Zimbabwe, 2 in Malawi. So 2 countries, 4 awardees, 16 participants from 10 different NGOs. So it was the prime and the sub. So we got all of them together. So they not only validated the process flow maps, but also reviewed the tools. And there are 3 things that were asked to look at: the completeness, the clarity, and the usefulness. Because these are the field people, and as we see it, our ultimate client are those field practitioners. So they are the ones who should say that yes, it is complete, the clarity and the usefulness of the tool. So once that was done, then whatever feedback we received from that, we further worked on those. And then we went for the final field testing. So the initial one was in the Southern Africa region, and the final one we did in May 2016 in the East Africa region. And there are 3 countries there. We have South Sudan, Uganda, and Ethiopia. So Ethiopia, we could not get any representative from the awardees there because of the emergency, the food emergency that was going on. But we had some regional commodity advisors. So we had 10 participants from 7 NGOs. So here we also brought one participant from Bangladesh, because in Asia that is the only country where we have food program. So you can see that there was wide consultation that took place before we could finalize. So this is where we finalized the tools. And now you will see the demonstration of the toolkit. But before we get there, may I ask Mark Frislow, who is the director of the TOPS program, to say a few words?
Thanks, BK. I'm not sure, BK, did you introduce yourself when you started?
Oh, no,
It's a BK day. I think most of you have had an opportunity to communicate with him one way or another over the last several years as this comes together. But BK is the head of the commodity management section of the TOPS program. And for those who may not know about TOPS, it's the Technical and Operational Performance Support Program, Food for Peace Award. We started in late 2010. We're in our 7th year now, and it's made up of a number of different approaches. But primarily what we are doing is TOPS program, to kind of give you sort of the macro view for a minute, of which commodity management and outputs like this are a key product, is designed to do basically 2 broad objectives. One is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of U.S. government food security programming, and secondly, to help strengthen the skills and practices and abilities of the implementing partners in delivering those services. And we approach that through a variety of means, since we're a very large sort of knowledge, you could call it a knowledge management and knowledge sharing kind of exercise, but we conduct a large number of learning programs, primarily to bring people together who know things, to share with people who want to know more things about their practices in the field. And I should mention that, and this is a good example of that, is that we are very much focused on providing support to the field. We are very keen about shortening the distance between knowing something and doing something. And so the way we do that is to try to create as many learning opportunities where people can come together, share their experience, and then go back out and try them out to see how well it works and then report back. We have a number of mechanisms by which that report back process works, and the task forces are one of those mechanisms that bring practitioners together, both virtually as well as face-to-face, to talk about their experiences. And the commodity management task force has been very active in that regard. So we have task forces in a variety of technical areas of the agriculture and natural resources management, commodity management, knowledge management, and so on. The TOPS program is run by 5 consortium members led by Save the Children, and our partners are Mercy Corps, the Core Group, Food for the Hungry, and Tango International. Each of them are leading whole suites, shall we say, of activities that many of you have been participants in, including such things as the theory of change trainings that our partner Tango has been carrying forward, and so on. So we try to provide opportunities for learning, and we try to carry those forward and as focused as much as possible on practical applications, things that can be used by the field staff so that they can do what is intended, which is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the U.S. government-supported food assistance, and also that they develop greater capacities as institutions for not only learning these things, but to maintain them within their institutional memories, so that we don't necessarily always have to start over again every time a new award is made. one of the flaws of the business model that we operate under grants is that frequently trained and experienced staff move on once an award ends, and so NGOs not having deep benches and a lot of funding, generally speaking, that they can keep people on, sometimes that gets lost a bit. But by being able to work together and help increase an institutional understanding and knowledge, and developing tools like this that can be accessed through not only practice, but also through another major mechanism of the TOPS program, which is the Food Security and Nutrition Network. That's the website that is an interactive website in which we are not only giving an opportunity for people to interact on like webinars or other kinds of interactive processes, but also have a large resource library of knowledge and information, of which this will be one of the latest editions, which I think will go live today, right? Okay, and then we have our staff over here who are also engaging in that very activity of being able to make people remotely available through Adobe Connect. Adrian and Lauren are hosting. How many people do we have signed up now?
We have about 12 right now.
Okay, so we have people who are calling in who are participating in this event as well. And through Adobe Connect, they'll be able to see the screen presentations and so on. So anyway, that may be a bit of a lengthy exercise. I'm glad to see Karen Tinknell, who's joined us, who's representing the Department of Hunger and Livelihood to Save the Children, in which the TOPS program is based, as Save the Children is the lead of this program. So we're glad to see you here, Karen. And like many of us, she's had just come out of a bout of the flu, so we welcome her here. So, and we welcome you. And for your nutritional needs, we have some things at the back here, some cookies and some non-sugary items, that looks like, and some coffee. So please help yourself. And BK. Okay, all right. I'm getting to the key event here. It's my pleasure to introduce Greg Olson, who's the director of the Procurement Operations Division of Food for Peace, the one who actually goes out and gets the food that gets distributed. And Greg is going to do the honors in launching our commodity management toolkit. Thank you, Greg.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start out by giving my hugest thanks to the TOPS team, to BK, to Sophie, to Adib, to everybody who's seen this one through for years now. This is a multi-year effort. I don't know of too many operations that can keep things on track the way they have. They had the fortitude, the patience dealing with me and my, over-promising and under-committing on delivery, but most of all the expertise that the group of people that have been working on this from the top side bring, I don't know, probably centuries worth of experience literally in this area. So we were in very good hands right off the bat. So I wanted to pass along Food for Peace's thanks, along with, I'm sure, all of our implementing partners who are going to be benefiting from these things. And Virginia, absolutely. I haven't seen Virginia in probably close to 2 years now. I met her at the very first workshop. So she's been the driving force behind getting the flow chart up, which is the next thing I wanted to talk about. I spent about maybe 3 months working on a flow chart for the way our Prepo operations work. And it looked like if you took every map of every subway system in the world and overlaid them on top of each other, that's what it looked like. And that's kind of what I thought was going to be the eventual result of this. And I'm very glad to see that it's a very simple 5-step chart that covers all of those processes in a way that we really think is going to be very valuable for everybody to use, including inside the office ourselves. So that's the part I really wanted to focus on. It may seem like a isolated part of what we all do, but I think it's a critical part. On the in-kind side, if you don't deliver safe food in quality warehousing, in packaging that works, it doesn't really make any difference. All of those papers, all of those programs, all of that planning and time spent, if you deliver bad food or can't deliver it because it is not in shape to do it, you've pretty much wasted all your time. So this is a very critical part of what we all do. So I know I see some familiar faces that live and breathe this, that have been doing it much longer than I have, but I definitely see the value in something like this and having it available for everybody around the world, at least at an online basis, to have the flashcards that you'll see in a few moments, that it's a big step forward for the program itself and probably for the office just as much as anybody, because I'm planning on coming as close to plagiarizing this as much as I can for our own purposes and our very dated commodity reference guide, which I've talked about with BK a number of times. I'm really hoping we can just pull some of those tools across and it's not just going to be used for the development programs on the PVO side, that we can use it in-house for our own needs. When I send Kyle and Jamie out to go do warehouse inspections, like I send them out, they do that themselves. I'll even say that this may be of value to our partners at WFP, that there's some common platform for us to all work from and to understand, because we all know that the PVO partners often work with WFP. They're often doing the distributions on the ground. You need to understand and have that same level of coordination across everybody to make sure that things work smoothly. So thrilled to see this finally hit the streets. This is a big moment for all of us. But again, just to say our thanks to the whole TOPS team. I think this has been money well spent by the office over the last 7 years. We don't bring the level of expertise, especially in this area, that this group does. So I want to give them a round of applause for all that they've done for us. So we're going to hand it off to Virginia now and do the demo. Oh, we got to do the honors. This is what the final product is actually going to look like. In talking this morning, we were originally thinking this was going to be a paper-based product. Well, we're in 2017 now, and paper's a little bit outdated. So this is what the product is actually going to look like on a flash drive basis. So this will be available this morning and start to be circulated out in the field. So
you can show how it works.
Yeah. So this is a flash drive in the shape of a credit card, but this is where the So it's very smart. It's 8 GB capacity, but our product is only about 200 megabytes, so it's very light. There will be space left for people to load other things related to their programs. Two things I would like to mention here. One is that you talked about plagiarizing this product. We want it like that because we don't
steal this product.
Yeah, we don't implement any program ourselves. We do it for people in the community. So we want modern people use it, and if it is useful to them, that will be our reward for doing that. And second thing, I forgot to mention, Maria Suarez from CRS, she was in our first workshop in 2014. So she knows when we started working on this, and we are here today. So it took a long time in the making, but we are here. Thank you, Greg. Okay, so yeah.
Did you want to talk about the follow-on activities?
Later. So let me introduce Virginia Vaughn. She's our Senior Community Management Training Specialist. So she is actually the main architect of this toolkit. My job is easy. I only present her with my wish list, and she makes it happen. So she will walk us through this toolkit. So, yes.
I'd just like to give a shout out to all of those that in the room who I've been harassing over the last several years with emails to say, could you please review this part? Could you please review that part? The vetting process has been long on this. It's also been long because I started this as a consultant with SAVE. So it was kind of working around my schedule when I could do the first workshop and when I could work on the toolkit. I finally bit the bullet and come on board as an official SAVE employee, which I'm delighted to be able to announce. And without further ado, give me 2 seconds to get this up and running, hopefully. Sorry I'm going to sit here. I didn't know how else to present this. You don't need to look at me. You need to look at the screen. So that. Can you hear me now? When one opens the USB stick, the toolkit, there'll be 2 files on there. One is a PDF that has the entire toolkit on it. The second is a folder of tools. I'll come back and talk about those in a little bit. This is how the toolkit looks.
Are you supposed to be seeing it on the screen?
Oh, we have to close this. I just shrunk it. I need to close it. You'd think I would know how to do it by now. I'm the one that developed this thing. Okay, full screen mode. There we go. The objective when I came on board was to find a way to demystify and simplify an incredibly complex process. And the flowchart methodology was chosen because there was a desire to present things in simple, easy to follow steps. It was still thought of as going to be a paper-based. Through the development process, it became apparent that it really needed to be online. And what we've ended up with is taking about 600 pages of text, if this was all printed out, and boiling it down to what I like to think of as the graphic novel for the 21st century audience. When you open, as you see, you come to the first page. If you click, we've divided the entire commodity management life cycle into 12 chapters. So our novel has a chapter starting at project startup. It all begins. Can you see if I do this? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. The process begins when the award is signed. It follows setting everything up, ordering, procuring, shipping. The food arrives at the port. Then it's transported, it's stored, distributed, monitored, and finally to project closeout. These are roughly linear processes, not exactly, but it's easier to think of them in terms of chapters. Overarching this is quality oversight and internal control. That's something that's going to be hitting each one of these sub-processes. Also internal losses. Quality oversight and internal control are all the mechanisms to reduce loss. In the event of a loss, there's all the processes down here because each, depending on where the loss occurred, there's different steps that need to be followed. Okay, so jumping right into it, let's go. If you want to see what's in any chapter, simply click on the chapter. So I'm going to click on Ocean Shipment, something everybody in the room knows about, right? Another thing to point out, this is not just geared for commodity managers. This is geared for anybody in the process. So it starts with an activity that is taking place behind the scenes as far as the NGOs are concerned. But we felt that the NGOs really need to know what's happening, at least at a high level behind the scenes, so they understand why those call forwards have to go in so many months in advance. They can't just order them the day before they're needed. On the first page of any of our sub-processes or chapters, you'll see a couple of things. First, in the upper left-hand corner this is where the cookies are stored. This will always tell you where you are, give you some navigation information. So we're in the Ocean Shipment chapter. The first page covers the entire sub-process at a very high level. Here we've taken the entire sub-process of Ocean Shipment and broken it down into create a tender, review the offers, award the contract, deliver it to a port, and load it. And then you go on to the next port operation. There's a lot of detail behind all of that. Anytime there is a thick border around a step, that means that you can start by clicking, you can drill down and get more and more detail at each level. Before we do that, I want to point out another feature, and that's on the left-hand side here, you'll see a title for each row. That refers to the functional area or role responsible for implementing that activity. So for example, the create a tender step, it's USAID Food for Peace and the freight forwarder that are responsible for that. When we get down to deliver cargo to a U.S. port, 4.4, that's the commodity vendors are accountable for that. There may be a lot of other people involved, but we've tried to list the role or functional area overall that's responsible or accountable for implementing, making sure that that step gets implemented. We've tried to use generic terms there because we realize that every NGO has a different organizational structure. So don't take these literally as that individual person. This has to be adapted to every specific organization. Okay, I said earlier that we drill down. If I want to see what steps are involved in creating a tender, I simply click on it. And it says first, USAID enters freight solicitations from approved sales orders and WBSCM. Then the freight forwarders complete the RFP requirement spreadsheets, and it all goes back to USAID to be compiled, and they post freight RFP requirement summary on USAID websites. And then you go on to the next step. Again, there's no thick border on these, so that's as far as you can drill down. We realize that there are a lot of steps and tasks and activities that are happening at both the freight forwarder level and USAID level. The idea of this toolkit is to keep it simple. What we have focused on is minimum requirements for compliance with Reg 11 and other USAID regulations, or in this case, just to give people at least some background information on what is happening after they submit that sales order. Because the next step says go to 4.2, this sub-process is linear. They all are not linear. It gets a little more complicated when we get into some of the larger ones. But I can click, it's got a thick border, so I can click on go to 4.2, and there I am. This starts here. This is using flowchart terminology. This little start oval says the freight RFP has been posted on the website. Then what happens? This walks you through the steps of what happens. And this is the final page that you can go to. At this one you can't drill down any further because there's no thick borders. But one thing you can do, and again, here's another highlight of the toolkit, anytime you see a green box attached to a specific step, that's a tool. You click on it, everyone's computer is going to be different. How many intermediate steps you need to go through to actually get to that tool will depend on the security and the operating system you're working with. On this one, I have to click that I'm allowing it. Boom. I've got access to Incoterms. In case I need to know, I've come to that step, I've seen the documents, I don't understand all of that stuff. What does it mean? I can click here and see what any of the terminology is. I simply close it and I'm back to the toolkit. All of these tools, there's 147 tools attached to this product. All of them can be downloaded and adapted to your local situation. Not all of them. Some of them, like Incoterms, it's a PDF because that's a standard document. A few of them are websites, and you can't go in and modify the website. Most of them are Excel and Word documents that can be adapted to anyone's specific situation. As BK said earlier, we want you to plagiarize this. Okay, so another feature down in the lower right-hand corner, there's always a go back button. This is not a fully automated system. Maybe someday, but so when I hit go back, it just takes me up one level higher than where I was. So I'm now back up to 4.0. If I click 4.5, we're still in ocean shipment, but now cookies tell us we're in 4.5 load cargo. This shows us the whole process of loading cargo. What I want to illustrate on this page is there's a lot of scenarios. This is part of the complexity of commodity management. You do things one way if it's bulk, another if it's break bulk, another if it's container. We use these gold, I guess, triangles, our decision points, and that allows us to put two different or more scenarios on one simple page. In this, we can talk about loading any kind of cargo. What are the steps involved? Look at 4.5.4. After the vessel's fumigated, then the question, it's always a question in the triangle, is it bulk commodity? If it is, you're done. The next step is if there were any losses that you picked up as you're loading the commodity, the bulk, you have to do this step. The freight forwarder needs to do that step. If it isn't bulk, that means it's break, bulk, or container, you've got to issue, the ocean carrier issues a piece count or a lifting report. The freight forwarder verifies it, then you go to losses. Again, this is just to illustrate, not to teach you about ocean shipment, but it's just to illustrate what happens when you come to a decision point. And to highlight that rather than having to go to another page, we tried to get as much as possible on each individual sheet. Let's go back. Okay, if I go up one, I'm at 4.0. I go back again. I'm back on the start page. Let's go to warehousing. That is the big one. Everyone wants to know about warehousing. As you'll notice, the overarching, we have simplified the entire process of warehousing into 6 steps. You establish the warehouse, you hire the staff, you receive the commodity, you maintain the commodity in good condition. There's a little decision point here. Are you going to process it? That means, are you going to mill it and turn it into flour before you distribute it? If yes, you can go to this step. If no, you go straight to dispatching it. Easy, right? Now you know everything about warehousing. Obviously, there's thick borders on every one of these because some of them you can drill down multiple pages. Let's just try receive commodity. And you see at least 3 of these I can continue to drill down on. Prepare for receipt, inspect it, account, and file the tally sheet, waybill, and applicable report. Again, we tried to include every step that was necessary for compliance. And one of the part of compliance is making sure that you've got documentation. So you'll see we've added a step right there that says don't forget to save those pieces of paper someplace the auditors can find. Let's drill down again to 3.1. Prepare for receipt of commodity. It says, again, more detail on what does that preparation require. You've got to lay out the pallets. You have to clean the area around the warehouse and the compound. Make sure you're starting with a good environment. And you need to engage adequate casual labor. If you don't have enough staff, you've got to have people on board to be doing the offloading and creating the stacks. Now you notice there's no heavy border there, so you can't drill down any further. But what if you're a new employee and you're not really sure about how to lay out those pallets? Well, how many pallets do I need and what kind of order do I put them in? There's a tool for that. Again, we wanted to keep the flow charts as simple as possible and still be able to provide people with information they need to do their job. So we've provided all of that background information in a tool. This is called the Warehouse Storage Capacity for Commodities. And it's a 2-page document that explains how do you figure out usable stacking volume. I scroll down, and it gives you the guidelines for how high you can make a stack and how that relates to volume. And it also talks about the spacing between stacks, all of the information, the basic information you need to know to figure out how many stacks based on the volume that you've been told is going to arrive, you can figure out with this simple 2-page guide. Again, not every single detail, but enough to be able, simply to be able to do that job. Likewise, engage adequate casual labor per local labor regulations. We do not attempt to put the local labor regulations for every single country into this tool. However, there are some minimum things we are suggesting everybody do. So let's open the casual labor recording template tool that's attached. I think these open faster in the online version. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It starts out by giving you a brief explanation of what these templates are for. There's 3 templates in this tool. One is to record attendance. One is to record payment if you're paying people on a daily basis. One is to record payment if you're paying people on a metric ton basis. So if I look at attendance, it's a simple spreadsheet. Again, doesn't take much for us to put this together and provide it to people, but it may take longer for especially someone new to the commodity management business to be creating all of these background documents. They can take this, download it, and change it to lundi, mardi, mercredi, etc. They can put whatever warehouse name they want in, modify it any way they want, but it's much easier to start with something than to create from scratch. What we have tried to do on all of these tools is include only the minimum information that we as a community decided would be necessary in order to pass an audit. Okay? Again, a simple casual labor payment template, just the minimum information you need to record. I'll scroll down on that, and it's prepared by, it's approved by, and submit this to finance. When it's paid by. Okay. Closing that tool, there's only a few more things I want to show you. I'm going to click go back, and I go up to 7.3. Again, I'm at 7. Boom, I'm back on the start page. This is basically the table of contents for our graphic novel. You'll notice down here in the lower right-hand corner, there's a button that says go to the resources page. If I click on that, this is just simply additional resources outside really the toolkit. We didn't develop these. You'll see, for example, USAID ADS Chapter 203, Assessing and Learning. You'll also see Chapter 320, Branding and Marking. Again, as BK said in the very beginning, we wanted this to be one-stop shop. Any of the background documents that you're going to need for reference purposes are listed here, and you can access them easily. Look familiar? There's Chapter 320. Okay, there's two other. This references on the right-hand side, that is just some of the tools that are included in this toolkit are like a practical guide to sampling. We figured that's one area where people always fall down is figuring out sampling methodologies. We've used a document produced by another organization, downloaded it so that we could attach it as a freestanding USB. People can use this entire thing offline. We have to cite the source for that. So that's what references is. It's giving the official sources for any of the materials that we did not develop ourselves. But the abbreviations and acronyms and the glossary are exactly what they say. If a new person is going through, again, to keep this as simple and sleek as possible, we have used a lot of abbreviations and acronyms. If you're not familiar with the terminology, from the start page, you can easily access this. Maybe not quickly, but easily. There you go. This one is a bit longer. That's 3 pages. But again, it pretty much covers everything you need to know acronym-wise. Okay, I'm going to close that. And just one more thing I want to show you. I'm going back to the start page. What I think is another real value of this toolkit is the first chapter, Project Startup. As we started mapping all of these flows out, the way back in 2014, during those exercises, it kept coming up that people were saying, well, yeah, this is how we do warehousing, this is how we do monitoring, this is how we do port. But you know, in order to get the right quantity of the best quality food to the right people, we really need project management to be involved. And project management has been handling commodity management at a distance. They hire a commodity manager and they say, okay, hands off, you go and take care of everything and leave me out of it. I've got to worry about implementing the project. So what we've done in this startup specifically is list the steps that the awardee headquarters, the COP, the project manager, and because it's often done jointly with a commodity manager, are responsible for. This makes it very easy for a project or a program manager to access this tool and find out, just going along their row here under their name, all of the things that they need to do. They are the one that have to make sure that that per swap is in place, and that at least at project startup, the bare minimum standard information that's going to be in every fumigation management plan is completed, so they're ready on that. They are also somewhat responsible in contracting service providers. I'll show you what I mean by service providers. Freight forwarder, the fumigation service provider, anyone you're going to need at the port besides the CNF agent and the independent surveyor. Again, this whole chapter is to help the commodity management people be able to do their job properly. Program management also has to make sure that when they're doing the baseline, they're collecting eligibility or graduation criteria as they can share with the commodity staff who are going to be actually finding these people and distributing the food. So project management has to establish a distribution monitoring system, etc. You can go through this on your own. There is, remember, let me go back. This isn't in your script. I'm going back now to the start page. And I said there is this overarching quality oversight and internal control chapter. If you click on that, this is basically a continuation of what program management, COP, and audit have to do. Anyway, again, these two, if the program managers do nothing but pay attention to these two chapters and implement those steps, the effectiveness and efficiency of our programs would noticeably increase. Because this is a PDF product, one is also able to scroll through it as you would. You can just scroll down or hit page down, page down, page down, and go through sequentially. It's not as easily understandable. However, because it's a PDF, you can print out just page 4 to page 7 that covers the specific activities that you need to be responsible for. And you've got an easy reference guide of what I have to follow up on. For example, warehousing, when we talk to some of the major steps of maintaining a warehouse, you can print that page out as a poster and stick it up on a warehouse wall somewhere so that staff in the warehouse remember, we've got to do this, then this, then this. Again, it's useful for so many things. Okay, I'm done talking. If there are any questions, I would gladly show you here, or we've also got computers set up to let people play with this themselves later. No?
Okay. This is the unscripted part, but I just want to say something. As a consumer of this kind of information, I think all of us would find this to be extremely helpful. And I can speak personally to, I was walking through and I was actually having a virtual deja vu about this. I started my life in commodity management with CARE in 1988 in India, in Andhra Pradesh, when I was hired to be the state administrator. And at that time, CARE was running almost 100% with commodity programs in India. And if I had had something like this, it wouldn't have taken me as long as it did. Actually, it didn't take me as long as it would have, except I had instead of having this, I had BK, who was the lead field officer at the time and was overseeing pretty much all of these processes. That's why he's so well versed in all this. But just looking at that and just walking through in my own mind of what it was like to sit in that office in Hyderabad trying to understand the complexity of commodity management, distribution, reporting, identification of losses, disposal of damaged commodity, all the things, port operations, we had it all. You know, break bulk, what's freight alongside, things like that. I didn't know any of those things at the time, and it took me a long time to actually pick it up. and back and forth. And just seeing this, speaking as a, as a former consumer of information like this, this would have been a absolutely brilliant thing to have in hand. And pretty much the same processes are underway today when commodity comes to a country or to a program. So, BK, congratulations. This is fabulous. And Virginia, of course.
One thing I told you I was going to show you, and then I forgot. I don't want to be a liar. On the USB port and also online, there is this folder called Tools. If you click on Tools, you can go and access those tools directly. You don't have to go back into the toolkit to find them. So if you just want to, oh yeah, I need that dispatch authorization. Let's see, I think it was under here, and you scroll down, and there's somewhere under here is dispatch authorization. I don't know. Anyway, all the tools are available there. Okay, now I guess BK wants to talk some more, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so currently this toolkit is available offline in a flash drive that we just showed you. And it is also available online for downloading from this website. So the website name is there, and it is live right now. So one can go directly onto this website and download from the website itself. So people who do not have access to the flash drive, they can still get it. And it is live right now. Okay. And when you go to this site, you will also find that there is a place for providing feedback. And this is the website, cmtoolkit@safechildren.org. So that is where, like, when you start using it, if you have any question, any comment, any suggestion for further improvement, you can submit your comments and we will get it. So it will be recorded somewhere, right? And alongside that, we are also creating a group of the CM Toolkit champions, because we are not there everywhere all the time, right? And there are so many countries where we have these programs going on. So when we started this process in 2014 and we did the final field testing in 2016, we identified people from different organizations from different parts of the world who would be like resource persons within that country office or within that region. So they can provide support to other partners who have any doubt, any question with the navigation, with finding anything, or how to use it for training purposes. So these will be the champions that we will have in all the regions. And this feedback that we receive, we will give it 3 to 4 months' time. So whatever feedback we receive from the user community, then we will get all these champions together to review those feedback and decide on what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, does it require any kind of changes, so we can further make it improved product and that is best suited for the user community. Because the feedback is coming from the community and these champions are from within the community, so they will analyze all those user experience and then they will recommend, okay, these are the changes that needs to be done. So as you can see, like at the development phase, we had extensive involvement of the field community in the development and finalization. And again, at the improvement phase also, these are the same people who will say that this is what we need in the field. So we will do that. Next step, when we were developing it, when we were field testing it, one request that came from both the field testing locations was to make it available in printed book form for their resource library within each office. They want to keep it because flash drive can be with someone who is traveling. It may not be available within the office if they need it. So that will be only after we have done all the improvements and all. That is when we will probably print it. And these posters, that was also another request that came from the community itself. All those process flow maps, because it tells you by step. So they said if you can print those posters that they can use it. One Virginia mentioned about posting it in the warehouse or the warehouse staff, they see it so that they don't miss any step. But also for training purposes, they can use if they have those posters. Whichever sub-office they want to conduct any training, they can just go with the posters and do the training. We also plan to make it available on the mobile platform. These days, everywhere you have got the smartphones and tablets. So if, say, any program manager is going to the field, going to a warehouse, so warehouse inspection checklist can pull up here on the tablet or the mobile phone and see, okay, these are the 5 or 10 different things I should be looking at. So it makes the job easier. Or someone is visiting the distribution site. What are the equipments and materials they should have to conduct a distribution? Pull up the checklist and then go through that one and make sure that you have everything in that place. So it will come eventually. It will take time, but we will have it. One thing is not there is that the question of making it available in other languages. Right now it is available only in English. Once everything is finalized, we have gone through the revision of the feedback and we have the final product, then we will be translating it certainly in French. In Spanish, I'm not too sure because at the moment we have got only one country doing the DFAP, that is Guatemala, and which is probably finishing end of this year. So unless there are new programs coming up in that part of the world, then probably it will be only in French. Okay, so with that, we will open it up for any question for me or Virginia. Feel free to ask.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is a great presentation, and it's very clear and very user-friendly, very informative. My one question is, so I'm assuming that the commodity management lifecycle will probably go through changes, not on the general lifecycle, but on the subsections. Will these changes, will these future changes be taken into account in the toolkit? Like, will there be a yearly version that accounts for these changes? Thanks.
Yeah, good question. I mentioned that after 3 or 4 months, we will have the Toolkit champions coming together to review the feedback. We also intend to do an annual review. If there are new guidelines, new policies that come up, then if it requires any kind of changes, we can do it. Because it is available online, it will be easy for us to do the changes. Only problem will be if you have one of these flash drives, you'll have to download the newer version in that one. The flash drives of 8 GB capacity, at the moment it is only 200 megabytes that we have. So you have got plenty of space. So we plan to do annual reviews. If there are any changes required, we will do it in the online version and people can go and download from there.
BK, this is really probably the most awesome thing I've seen after, the old paper-based systems that had to struggle through and update it again and update again. In terms of legacy, I know TOPS is closing out, is there a thought of putting this on some other platform or housing it with USAID or something like that?
This is my job security, so I'm not.
I'll put you on the spot, sorry.
Yes, it will be available, as I said, in the FSN Network website, and it will be in the TOPS website. And then Greg and I, we have been talking about making it a part of the commodity reference guide. So TOPS will be gone today or tomorrow at some point, but this will be there for all future generation. Whenever they have programs, they can access this one. It should be easily available to anyone doing food programs.
Thank you.
That corner there was.
Yeah. Again, thanks very much, for this presentation. My question is more relating to training, whether this is something that TOPS has factored, or whether you will have like teams of trainers, or whether you'll be putting together like a training toolkit or package that PVOs will then use for the staff.
Your question is about training on the toolkit or training on commodity management? Both. Okay. Community management training we do conduct from time to time in the countries where there are food assistance programs. Like last month we were in Bangladesh. Next month we are going to DRC. The following month we will be in Ethiopia. So it depends on the need, and if there is any specific request from those countries, we do conduct the community management training. About this toolkit itself, we talked about these champions. So those are the people who will be the resource within the country. So we will circulate a list sometime later about who would be the resource person available in any specific country where there are development assistance programs. And those are the people that your country staff should be reaching out to if they need any support in understanding and using this toolkit.
Just a quick comment. I'm sure you must have thought about it. And it's just a suggestion that when you make an update, if there's some way there is an alert notification that either individual tool or entire toolkit has been updated on any specific subject matter, that would help the practitioners to know which what you call tool has been updated so that they can go back and download that individual tool or the entire toolkit. It's just a thought. I'm sure you must have thought about it, but some kind of a notification pops up somewhere that would be very helpful.
No, that's an excellent point. As you'll notice on the cover of the toolkit, down in the very bottom, it says version 1.0. We're assuming that that's going to stay as version 1.0 unless the flow charts, anything on the flow charts change. We probably will not be changing that version if it's an individual tool. So I'll let him comment on that, but just something to point out, one of the reasons that this may not be as slick as a website is because it was built on Microsoft Visio and then published as a PDF and is as accessible as a PDF. Very simple, easy to use programs to ensure that people can, after TOPS is finished, that it's easy for somebody to go back in and make the changes on it. Updating tools.
Okay, if we revise this toolkit, the announcement will go out through the FSN Network newsletter. So people who are subscribing to that, they would know that there is a new version available. Second, if there is any individual tool anyone wants to download, you remember when Virginia showed there is a PDF file and there is a file with all the tools in it. They can go to any individual tool and they can download that particular tool itself. So those are the two variations that we have. Any questions from this side? Did you have a question?
From online? No. We've wowed them so much they're speechless.
One more thing I must mention, that right now this toolkit addresses only the development food assistance programs. It doesn't include the LRP, the local regional procurement, and it also does not include the emergency programs like doing it through WFP. So that is for the future, that we have plans to include those also as a part of the toolkit. So it will cover everything, development programs, emergency programs, and LRP.
Your job is secure.
One question again. Are there any plans, to kind of have a discussion with USDA since they're also, doing, commodity-based programming?
Yeah, we will be reaching out to them about this. I mean, we want people to use it. Whoever is using U.S. government resources should be able to use it. And we will be reaching out to them, letting them know that this is available. And Matt has contacts, Greg has contacts. So, and it is freely available. As soon as they get the website, they can go there and download. They need not contact me also. So it is available for anyone who is using food programs can use it.
in partial answer to that question too, we have notified through the FACG, the Food Assistant Consultative Group, which represents co-chaired and co-run by USDA and Food for Peace, and we've sent this notice out through them, through their listserv, and at an upcoming FACG meeting, we'll certainly reference this product so that it goes out to, and that's tend to be. Those meetings tend to be attended by a lot of people in the industry, shippers and producers and freight carriers, as well as the NGO world. So again, it gets to a larger community, including people in the Foreign Agriculture Service of USDA with the McGovern-Dole and the Food for Progress programs that handle commodities. So it'll have a fair amount of distribution and knowledge out there.
I just want to take a quick minute and show you. This is what it looks like online. I decided to run the presentation off of a USB because I've crashed 2 computers in the last few days, and I didn't want anything to go wrong. But this is the FSN network, the address that we will post for everyone. A little blurb about what the toolkit is. You click on that, you see exactly what I demonstrated. And rather than be in a folder, all of the tools are listed individually right there on the site. You can go in and get any one you want. Or, voila, there's the toolkit.
Any more questions? If not, so we have got this 1, 2, or 3 laptops set up here on the side and at the back. If anyone wants to try it out, you can try out how to navigate, how to find tools. And also, like when you are going out of the door, if you are interested, you can get a flash drive, so you can take back with you. And we have got snacks at the back of the room, so help yourself. And thank you all. Thanks for coming.